Thank you, Margaret. Scripture readings for this week. On the annual cycle, the Torah portion is Pinchas, or Phineas, if you speak English. And it is Numbers chapter 25, verse 10 to the end of Numbers, actually. It's a very good story, and we will hear about it shortly. The Haftarah is from 1 Kings 18, towards the end there, and 19. And the Brit Hadashah is Luke 23, 24. And that, I think, ends Luke too, right? Then we start John next week. Super. And this is Yeshua, in case you were wondering what that meant. Okay, Rav Boats has a message. That's me. I'd like to ask that I'll ask Yahweh to let my teachings, my instruction, fall as rain. My speech, can't even say it, my speech drop down as dew, as fine rain on tender plants, and as showers on the grass. Are you Israel? That's the question. I mean, that's the question. And we've been talking about that, 2+ years now. Yahweh, open our eyes that we might see wonders from your word, your Torah. We're continuing with the upright ostrich, and I want to talk about Israel as a military camp. So we're going to talk mostly about what was last week's reading, Balak and Balaam. Israel, now right now, I want to open up a series on the spiritual war that is happening. It's been happening since the beginning, but it's right now. And our enemy is highly active. So maybe my speech won't fall as such gentle rain after all. Okay, this is a continuation from last week. You remember Balak, that he was a king of Moab, and it says Moab, that means all of the people in Moab, were scared to death of Israel. What's the big deal? Just a bunch of guys hanging out in the wilderness. I mean, couldn't have been that big of a problem. Could they? But he was deathly afraid. And it says Moab was exceedingly afraid, it scared the liver out of them, of the people because they were many. And Moab was in dread because of the children of Israel. This is what he saw. I want to tell you, this here is a military camp. It's not a bunch of guys hanging out in the woods for a while. This is a serious deal. Yahweh told him this is how you're going to set up. He didn't tell him, whatever you feel like, don't worry about it, just get out there. He was specific. In the ancient Near East, that was that time of history, a military camp consisted of the commander in the center, and the army surrounded his command post by divisions. Usually, his staff would immediately surround his tent area. Okay, the tent's in the middle. You see the thing with the smoke stuff or this cloud thing? That's the commander right there. Surrounding it is his staff, the Levites. Surrounding that is all of the divisions of Israel, according to their tribes. You might notice there's 12 tribes. Just a point. Israel's camp is a military camp. That's what they saw. They were right to be afraid. When Israel moved out, they did it in a military fashion. They did it by the numbers. It tells us in the scriptures that they so-and-so moved first and so-and-so took the ark, and all these things were done accurately and carefully, and they were orchestrated down, literally down to the person who was going to carry or do what. It was no small task. Yahweh is an Elohim of great order. And we should remember that when we are in his presence. He likes order. This is what they saw. A military pass-in review with everything. 600,000 man army? I'm thinking that's a little bigger than the U.S. Army and all the rest of them, the Marines and the Navy and the Air Force and Coast Guard, and Merchant Marines and tag-alongs or whatever, and probably the Russian Army and probably just about everybody. 600,000 armed men for war. Oh, I already said that. But the number that he saw there did not include all of those men that were under or over the age. Didn't include any of the women, the girls. Certainly didn't include any of their animals. An estimate says that Israel in the wilderness was 2 to 3 million people. That's a crowd. Now, as I get it, Cumberland County up there is 42,000 people. That's not a lot. Cumberland County is a pretty big place. How big a place would hold 2 to 3 million? Plus you got to have the outside of the camp, where those that are unclean, they go to the outside of the camp. They did stuff, the Levites did stuff that was outside the camp. Remember the story about the red heifer? You take them outside the camp, you burn them all up, you do this here and you do that there, and then you bring it in. But the guys are unclean until evening, and they got to do stuff. That's a big area and an awful lot of people. And he's standing on top of a mountain and seeing all of this. It's likely he didn't see the whole thing, but what he saw had him shaking in his boots, which was good. Now, it just so happens that Yahweh is the commander of his own army. That's it. In Yeshayahu and Isaiah chapter 6, he's taken up to the heavens to see this great thing. He sees these seraphim type angels. The seraphs are they're the big guys in the angel. I mean, they're pretty big, pretty mean, pretty tough. Not cherubs as little babies with little wings going like that. Nope. And they say, Kadosh, 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 Yahweh Elohim, Tsevaot, of hosts. What's a hosts? It so happens that word Tsevaot that you see there, hosts, means, and this is what this is Strong's definition, it's a mass of persons, especially regularly organized for war. An army. You don't have armies so that they can go play cricket someplace. You don't have armies so that they can stand around and joke and carry on. They are for war. They are trained for war. I will tell you, as a personal observer of such a thing, war is bad. Real bad. A campaign, literally and figuratively an army, a company, a host, soldiers, warfare. That's what Tsevaot means. It tells us in Exodus, now Exodus chapter 15, that's the Song of Moses. You wonder why those songs were picked? Yeah, it wasn't random. The Song of Moses, it says in verse 3, Yahweh is a man of battle, or war in the King James. Yahweh is his name. Yahweh means to do the things he means to do. He does not have a problem with destroying anybody in his way. It will be done. So, look at the things going around in our world. They have the opinion that nobody's paying attention. It is a crying shame that they have this opinion, but somebody is paying attention. And he has said certain things are going to happen. They will happen. Because he said so. And this war that started in the garden is going on right now. And as we have talked lately, and for the past, 40 years, it has been my experience that we have been at war, and it is accelerating, and it's not nice. They want us, and they want to destroy us. And today it's worse. And we can see it. I did a message on the fence. Yahweh has this big old fence. You get on that side or his side. Now, if you're on that side, he wants you to really make sure. You know that hot and cold thing, because you spit you out of your mouth if you're lukewarm? Coffee? Lukewarm coffee. Think of that. What's that? Blech. Lukewarm coffee. Can't drink. I drink it cold. I don't like it cold, but I mean it cold or hot, but nothing in the middle. That's what Yahweh wants. And that's what's happening today. Don't be surprised when you see the crazies out there doing the stuff they're doing. They're getting on their side of the fence. Those that are doing it are shaking off any semblance of being in the middle. It is hardcore, I'm on that side of the fence. And you all are a long list of things. Intolerant. And then something to do with some phobes or phobic or tolerance. The problem is that all those people that are doing all of this stuff, what's everybody else doing? Are we ready for war? You ready to fight? Now, I'm going to tell you right off front. Our weapons, I have a rifle or two. I'm sure a lot of us do. They're insufficient. The battle is Yahweh's. He says so. It's going to be his spirit and him who wins and fights, who fights and wins the war. But we have to be ready. I'm going to talk about that the rest of the next couple of messages. Putting on the whole armor, etc. What does that mean? Pray up, get your scriptures down pat. Janet's been talking about that. If you haven't read the Bible, you ain't got no weapons. But what you do have is this. This is today's army. Isn't it wonderful? They having their head in the sand. Doesn't matter whether it's a little thing with a bright light on it or not, it's in the sand. Many of them are completely unaware of what's happening. It is a horrible thing, the consequences of a battle. Something that is totally missed is the collateral damage. There's your collateral damage. This is what I want to grab them kids, adults, whatever, and shake the sense into them. But I still think a lot of them won't get it. I know I'm online a lot, and I see a lot of the stuff that's going on. Most of them haven't even got a clue, and I'm going to tell you who I blame. Christian church. And this is what we're talking about next week. They have dropped the defenses. Well, we won't worry about it. We're going to get raptured out of here anyway. Well, just what happens if you're not? Or what happens if it isn't pre-trib, it's mid-trib, or something other trib, or I'm a pan-tribulationist. It's all going to pan out. I don't have any idea, and it doesn't matter. We ain't getting out of it. But we will, and this is the other thing I'm going to show, we will be protected in it. All you got to do is just a few little things, but them guys in the army, they went through that picture, they had to go through all kind of training to get to that point, that particular day. Graduation from training. They went through a lot of stuff to get there. And it just isn't as hard as they had to go through. We're not running 350 miles and do 2 million push-ups every 20 yards, which is what they did. We're not carrying packs of 80 pounds. We have our Bibles. They're not that heavy. But brush the dust off. And in the case of this place, I don't see dusty Bibles. That's it. But Margaret and I have been around, and we've been in church here and churches there, and there's a lot of dusty Bibles, a lot of intolerance and closed minds. This is what I see. This next picture is what I see is going to be the thing. When the world comes to an end, that's what they're going to be doing. They're going to be taking pictures with their cell phone of the big bombs when they're going off.
Wake up!
That's it. This is so easy. It's so easy. Okay, what is Yahweh's army supposed to look like? How do we get there from where we are now? Most of us, especially in this room, are pretty close to ready. Our training it may not be complete, but it is certainly sufficient. And that's the thing. We already know a lot of what we're going to do. What I want to talk about is to make sure that we get the steps correct. We know this, we know that. How do you do this? How do you do that? How do you pray effectively? How do you study effectively? Can reading the Bible actually be a weapon? I don't see why not. I was in artillery. Let me tell you, if you don't know what you're doing, the weapon's useless. You read the book. You study the book. You actually practice a little bit, yeah? You do stuff. Field training exercises. We're going to do that. We're going to talk about Yahweh's army. Is that okay? That's good? Shalom. I want you to make sure that you understand I'm not trying to scare the liver out of everybody. I'm not making this up. This is stuff Yahweh said he was going to do it, and it's happening. We're watching it in our time. Do you realize that the guys that followed Rabbi Yeshua around, all those guys wanted to see this day, and we're looking at it. And they envy us. So let's do this day. they don't win. Let us not be smelling like smoke when they lose. Let's walk into the kingdom. This definitely will be